Welcome back to the Friends podcast. I'm your host, Luna Leon, and our show today is about Ryan Coogler's latest vampire thriller that's making history with an incredible 16 Academy Award nominations. Okay, so Ryan Coogler just rewrote Oscar history with a vampire movie set in Jim Crow, Mississippi. And honestly, I love that this is what finally broke the record. 16 nominations for Sinners, which is more than any film has gotten since All About Eve back in 1950. That's 76 years of Oscar ceremonies where Titanic couldn't do it, La La Land couldn't do it, but a period vampire drama about black sharecroppers? That's what it took. Here's the thing that makes this delicious. Sinners got nominated in literally every category it was eligible for. Every single one. That's not just the Academy liking your movie, that's the Academy being unable to find a single aspect of your film they could ignore. Michael B. Jordan in a dual role? Nominated. The costume design? Nominated. The score, the cinematography, the casting? All of it. Warner Brothers is probably still popping champagne because between Sinners and Paul Thomas Anderson's One Battle After Another, they're sitting on 30 total nominations. But let's pump the brakes for a second and acknowledge what nobody's saying out loud. Yes, Sinners broke the record. But the Academy also just introduced a new achievement in casting category this year. So technically, films can now accumulate more nominations than ever before because there's literally more categories to be nominated in. Does that diminish what Coogler accomplished? Not really. You still have to be excellent in 16 different areas to get 16 nominations. But it does add context. Records are easier to break when you expand the playing field. It's like being impressed someone ran a faster mile after you shortened the track. I mean, still impressive, but let's be honest about the math. Still, let's talk about what Sinners represents beyond the numbers. This is Ryan Coogler, the guy who made Black Panther a cultural phenomenon, and then followed it up with Wakanda Forever, proving he's not just a superhero director, he's a filmmaker, period. And he's doing it with a vampire story that centers Black working-class life in the Mississippi Delta, complete with a blues aesthetic and the kind of historical specificity that Hollywood usually treats like kryptonite. The film made $368 million worldwide, which means audiences showed up. This wasn't some darling indie that 12 people saw. This was a commercial and critical success, which is increasingly rare in an era where those two things feel like they're speaking different languages. And then there's Ruth E. who just made history again because apparently that's just what she does now. 5th Oscar nomination for costume design. 5th. She's now the most nominated Black woman in any Oscar category, and she's already won twice for the Black Panther films. Her work on Sinners sounds like it was an exercise in cultural archaeology. She talked about creating costumes as an act of protection rather than embellishment, showing how Black sharecroppers and migrants made something out of nothing. Hand-me-downs, patches, crooked hems left as is because that's what authenticity looks like. Not Hollywood's sanitized version of poverty, but the real thing. Carter's quotes hit different when you realize she's been doing this since Malcolm X and Amistad. She said, "I was the first to be nominated. I was the first to win, and I'm still in the game." That's not just pride, that's a declaration. She's 3rd among all Black creatives in Oscar nominations, tied with Spike Lee and Morgan Freeman, behind only Quincy Jones and Denzel Washington. And she's making it clear this isn't a fluke or a moment. It's a career. It's staying power. It's showing up and being undeniable until the industry has no choice but to keep recognizing you.
Building a new product? Temez Labs takes you from napkin sketch to the App Store. Trusted by Fortune 500s for quality, security, and speed. Book your free strategy session at temez.ai.
Meanwhile, Paul Thomas Anderson's One Battle After Another came in 2nd with 13 nominations, which in any other year would be the headline. Leonardo DiCaprio, Benicio del Toro, Sean Penn, and Teyana Taylor all scored acting nods. But here's where things get messy. Chase Infinity, the breakout star everyone was talking about, not nominated. Sometimes the Academy's taste is impeccable, and sometimes it's baffling. This is one of those baffling moments. And speaking of baffling, Wicked for Good got completely shut out, 0 nominations, after Part 1 received 10 nominations last year. How do you go from 10 to 0? What happened between those two films that made the Academy collectively shrug? Nobody's really explaining it, and that silence is louder than any campaign could be. It's giving sequel fatigue. Or maybe voters felt like they already rewarded the story and didn't need to do it twice. Either way, Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande's team must be wondering what went wrong. Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein got 9 nominations, but he wasn't included in the directing category. Paul Mescal didn't get a supporting actor nod for Hamnet, despite the film earning 8 nominations overall. Delroy Lindo took that spot instead for Sinners, which is his first Oscar nomination after decades in the industry. So we're watching the Academy make choices that feel both overdue and confusing simultaneously. That's Oscar season for you. Justice and chaos in equal measure. But here's what nobody's asking. What does it mean that this year marks the first time ever that all 4 acting categories have a nominee from an international feature film? Stellan Skarsgård became the first supporting actor from an international film to be nominated. Wagner Moura is the first Brazilian nominated for lead actor. Renata Reinsve and Inga Ibsdottir Lilius are the first actors nominated for a film in Norwegian. This is unprecedented territory, and it suggests the Academy's 10,000-plus voting members are finally looking beyond English-language cinema in a meaningful way. Neon distributed 4 of the 5 international feature nominees, which means someone over there has figured out the formula. Then there's Emma Stone, who just became the youngest woman to reach 7 Oscar nominations at age 37, beating Meryl Streep's previous record by a year. Stone's working with Yorgos Lanthimos on Begonia, continuing a partnership that's already given us Poor Things. She thanked everyone who poured their hearts into Begonia and called Jesse Plemons beyond brilliant, which is the kind of gracious response you give when you're 37 and already have 2 Oscars at home. She's got time. Meryl still holds the overall record with 21 nominations, so Stone's got 14 more to go if she's chasing that crown. No pressure. Timothée Chalamet, at 30, became the youngest actor since Marlon Brando to receive 3 Best Actor nominations. He's nominated for Marty Supreme, a Josh Safdie film that also pulled 9 nominations total. Chalamet's trajectory is absurd. 3 lead actor nominations before he's even 31. If he maintains this pace, he'll either burn out spectacularly or become one of the most decorated actors of his generation. There's no middle ground with this kind of momentum.
Oh, hey, friend. Do you like what you're hearing? Now you can have a ridiculously amazing podcast, too. Check out holler.studio to get yourself one today.
The ceremony scheduled for March, with Conan O'Brien hosting. Conan's an interesting choice. He's got the comedy chops and the cultural cachet, but he's also someone who's been through his own Hollywood wars with the whole Tonight Show debacle. He understands what it's like when the industry chews you up. That might make him the perfect person to celebrate a night where records are breaking and history's being made, because he knows how hard it is to stay in the game. What's landing with me is that Sinners made $280 million domestically, and the Best Picture nominees combined for nearly $1.4 billion globally. People actually went to theaters to see these films. That's not nothing in an era where streaming supposedly killed cinema. These aren't just movies critics loved and audiences ignored. They're movies that connected, that made money, that justified their existence beyond awards campaigns. Ruth E. Carter said she thanks God that Ryan Coogler was born, because he continues to tell stories important to the culture. And she's right. At a time when politicians are literally trying to erase Black history from textbooks, here's a film about Black sharecroppers and migrants in Jim Crow, Mississippi, getting 16 Oscar nominations. Here's a costume designer talking about authenticity and patches and crooked hems as acts of cultural preservation. Here's the Academy, for once, recognizing that these stories matter. The takeaway? Records are made to be broken, but they're rarely broken by vampire movies about the Mississippi Delta. Ryan Coogler and his team did something special, something that transcends the nomination count. They made a film that's commercially successful, critically acclaimed, and culturally significant. And they did it while breaking a 76-year-old record. March is going to be very interesting. Thank you for listening to Friends with Luna Leon. If you liked our podcast, please show us your support by tapping the follow button and rating it 5 stars. That's a wrap.
Grep News. Tamez.